This is a podcast from Rover.
This is Rex Rural Exchange. This is the Sunday edition of the Rex Fieldays special. They're being recorded here on a lovely sunny day on a Thursday. The numbers are certainly up, and hopefully the days that followed have gone really well too for the team here at Fieldays. Well, GM of Rural Property Brokers, great friend of the show, and there's another little bit of a sideline thing going on between me and him as well. Shall we cover that off first, Conrad Wilkshire? Shall we get into the share for you? How's your share?
Well, this is what you've been dying to ask
I know,
him,
I
right?
just want to see if there's any sort of telltale signs on his hands or his arms that he's been sharing.
Oh, well, yeah, I've got some big plans for the weekend. Obviously can't discuss them because they're all embargoed. But I've got some top flight sharing support, and I've got the whole community behind me, Hamish, so no, it's looking pretty solid.
No, and they will be a good community behind you, and that's why, because we want to raise plenty of money, don't we? That's the bottom line, although I do want to win. Today we've had Mickey McDonald, and we're going to have David Fagan, so I've enlisted a couple of... Mickey McDonald had the use sharing record of, what was it, 881?
No, he was Lamb's.
Oh, Lamb's sharing record.
9 hour.
881. So he goes all right.
Yeah, well, I've got some tried and true support too. You know, they're not quite as flashy as that, but they're absolutely reliable.
Have you got Heineken on board? Have they sent you a handpiece?
I will. I will. I've got some very specialist gear turning up on Friday.
Ooh, can't wait to see that.
It is going to be skullduggery, isn't it? It's
And I will admit to going to Farmlands and getting some shearing kit organised. So I'll look the part anyway. What actually happens on the day is still to be seen.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever, at the end of it, we'll shake hands and there'll be respect, but we still bloody will want to win.
Too right.
Okay, so the farm sales. It seems like there's a few mixed messages out there.
Yeah, there are, Hamish. Look, there's no question, even before the recent OCR change of another 75 points to 4.25%, that the impact of interest rates on buying decisions was already in play. So I can give you a couple of stories if you want. If you want the good news, I can say, well, look, I can give the...
Well, we do like good news.
Okay, well, the rolling 12 months is still very good. If you actually look at the market on a rolling 12-month basis, the market's about 4.3 billion. It's actually up on the prior year. All the median prices are up in the last 12 months, and you've got dairy sales clicking around about 250 a year, and you've got, I always like to look at the 200 hectares and up, the larger hill country, and nationally that's about just under a couple hundred, about 184 odd sales a year, and it's very similar year on year. And in that category, particularly the sheep beef, we're seeing it's gone up from about 800 million in sales to about $1 billion in sales for sheep and beef in that larger farm category. So if you have a look at that, that's going to help underpin valuations, because you're looking at the valuations, you're looking back. But if you are looking forward at the moment, and you're maybe thinking about the last 4 months, if you look at July to October, it's a bit of a different story.
Okay.
And that story is?
Well,
that's sort of like the pregnant pause there.
Yeah, it is a bit.
I
Pause
feel like
for effect, because there's something coming.
There's a
dramatic
big
effect.
There's a big but coming here.
There is a big but, and I think the one thing is that it's been our raw market's been tracking favourably for the last 3 years. Our commodity stock has been tracking favourably for the last 3 years. There's been a lot of headwinds environmentally and compliance and what have you, but it's been going very strongly. These interest rates, there's just no skirting around it. It's had a really immediate impact. And so just to give you a little bit of a context, if I was looking at dairy sales in the South Island, we've for this July to October period, this time last year to the end of October, would have been about 120 million 15 dairy sales, and they actually help guide the market as to where value is. This year, to the same period for this 22, it's 3 for about just under 30 million.
Wow, so that's quite a difference.
Now, the good news, and obviously Property Brokers like to do more than do its fair share, we've actually had some good dairy sales in Canterbury, particularly of late, and we've got a lot of good sales under action, and Target Southland and the like. So it's not like there aren't going to sales happen over November and December. They will, but there's no question people are more circumspect, and the DD period. The other interesting thing though is that if you look at it's North and South Island. If you have a look at sheep and beef sales, again, if you look at the raw market overall for the North Island, it's literally half. It's gone from 280 odd sales down to 166 sales over that period for the North Island, and it's gone from a market this is 4 months to October. It's gone from 822 million down to 454 million.
So this is when compared to the same period for last year.
4 months.
Wow. Okay, that's
These are significant numbers.
Yeah, they are. Okay, so and the key reasons for that, you've touched on some of them.
Look, Bex, I really do think it has more to do with the cost of funding and capital, and so I was talking to a good mate of mine, and he's been farming for a very long time, and he's got rates rolling through, not even 4%, some 3.8 or something like that, and his next review it's going to be closer to 8%, and so and that's real money, and it was money that would have been going to retiring principal and paying tax. Yeah. He's in a good position. It's not like it's end is nigh, but it's certainly taken the top off it. And then you look at the schedule coming back and a few of the other scenarios. And nobody's sort of shouting from the rooftops at the moment. Not that farmers typically do, but it is there is cause for measuring twice and cutting once in terms of before you spend an extra dollar at the minute.
Cause for pause.
Yeah. Hey, what about the announcement yesterday from the Prime Minister around the sequestration in terms of, does that sort of bring a slightly positive note to this? Does this add anything to this going forward to those who, made significant plantings since, 1990, is it, I think? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, Hamish, I haven't had a chance to really take stock on that properly, but I don't think that's if you're looking at the neighbouring block next door, I don't believe that's driving that decision. I think
no, I don't think so either.
And look, it's don't get me wrong, that would be factored into your planning, and you'd be making provision for it in your funding applications and the like. But ultimately, I think it comes down to how much is it going to cost me, and how much flex have I got? How much? What's the extra marginal return? What I will say though is that you can't. In our market, and obviously I always speak to the advice and getting advice, but you can't judge it all the same because, like if I look at the Manawatu, which in the last couple of seasons has been a bit off the pace in terms of rural sales compared to other areas. And the Manawatu is quite a broad region. It's sort of, in terms of the description, it covers a bit of Wanganui right through the Tararua. But if you ever look at that market, it's gone up. So it's gone from similar sort of 26 sales to 30 sales for that 4 month period we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And it's up almost from 70 million to 125 million for that. So and equally Hawke's Bay. And so you've got, Bex, you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
That alternative land use is, because obviously you bring the Tararua region into that Manawatu result.
Yes.
And you start to look at Hawke's Bay. Again, the values are, they're starting to factor in. But what we are seeing right now is that it's become a little bit more normalised to maybe put your property forward for sale, and if trees are going to be the outcome, then people are sort of prepared to look at that, probably consider that more than they might have, say, 2 or 3 years ago. But the supply side is actually the big unknown at the moment. There's a lot of supply of sheep and beef properties, and there's only a limited pool of buyers.
Yes.
So I actually think for a genuine farmer looking to grow their business, I think things are normalising a little bit, and I do think these policy settings, some of these policy settings are absurd, where we put it all on farmers to help the country's net emissions when we're driving 82% of the country's exports. It's just, none of that seems to reconcile very well.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that for farmers in the business of farming and who've got good growth models, I actually do think they can benefit from the revaluations they've had, and if they've got good operating models, they can still look at maybe leasing farms or getting ahead of it a little bit now.
That way, okay. There are
in addition to the existing operation I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Talking with GM Rural for Property Brokers, Conrad Wilkshire, here at Fieldays. What do you obviously you have a bit of a walk around, a bit of a, press the flesh and catch up with people. But what do you like when you're walking around? What captures your eye, Conrad?
Well, it is a great opportunity to connect, and you do get a good feel for. You can have a lot of meetings in one day that would take quite a bit to set up. And you do get a feel for the pulse, and right now I think from my industry point of view, people are trying to get a sense and a perspective, so it gives you an opportunity to have a lot of conversations. And typically this field day is held through the winter, and so that's whereas right now we're in the middle of the season, things are really happening. So there's an opportunity to get more chat going about what's actually happening versus what might be happening in the future.
Yeah, good stuff. And if you could take something home, what would it be? Tractor, trailer, RM Williams boots? What's your?
I don't know. I just had a good steak at AFCO. That wasn't too bad. I think I'll probably be like a lot of farmers. I'm probably keeping the checkbook a little bit tight at the moment and just making sure there's a special on.
It's been a theme. Make sure.
Yeah, we haven't really encountered anyone who said that they're here to buy a big ticket item, have we?
No. Most people have sort of just been keeping a weather eye on things, just in case that weather turns even gnarlier.
Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff, Conrad. Always great to have you on the show. Conrad Wilkshire, of course, GM with property brokers. Right across the country, property brokers pretty much these days.
Absolutely, from the north to the south. Thanks, Hamish.
Yeah, and that's important to know too. Sort of spread the wings from the mighty Manawatu and those positions of strength, but right across the country now, property brokers. And you are here with the Rural Exchange team, and this is the Rex Field Day Special.